And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Sorry about my my volume just went through the roof. I'm Spencer Kobren, and of course this is the Hair Loss Show, The Bald Truth. So great to be here. Another Tuesday night, just getting used to my new board, my new equipment, trying to work on the sound. So please excuse me if there are any technical difficulties, and you can kind of just let me know what's going on in the chat room, or if you want to call in. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Look, if you're new to the program, don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss, believe it or not. I'm the author of The Truth About Women's Hair Loss and The Bald Truth. Don't know why I mentioned the women's book first. For the last 14 years, I've been saying The Bald Truth first, but that's the way my mind is working lately. And I'm here to really help guide you guys in the safest possible direction when it comes to anything and everything hair loss. And if you're new, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, who is this guy to help guide us? Well, I have been dealing with hair loss myself for the last 25 years, believe it or not. I have a birthday coming up. I'm about to be 48 years old, which is insane to me when I really think about it, and I try not to. But I started to lose my hair at the tender age of 21. And if you're looking at me for the first time, if you're viewing this program on Guys from Queens Network or The Bald Truth or Ustream.tv or any of the other online resources that air this broadcast, you're probably thinking, it looks a little strange, but this guy does have hair in his head. So what is he bitching about? Why is he doing a program on hair loss? And I can tell you that I am so fortunate to have been able to really stop the progression of my hair loss or slow it considerably and, live a life, most of my life, with a relatively full-looking head of hair because I made the right moves. I was somehow had the wherewithal to, after doing my research, not jump into surgical hair restoration before I needed it, not let one of these clubs shave my head and put a wig on me. I bought a lot of, ineffective lotions and potions over the years, but, I kind of made my mistakes early on, and I was lucky enough not to make any mistakes that really affected my life adversely. I talk about this all the time, but, my success, the reason I've been able to keep the hair that I have for the most part, is because of FDA-approved medication. I started using finasteride in 1994, and I've been on it ever since. I'm going on my 20th year on the drug, and I will tell you that if it wasn't for finasteride, which is now marketed as Propecia, I never would have written The Bald Truth. I never would have got on the radio. I never would have chosen this career path because it was because I was able to find something to help myself, that I wanted to share my experiences with other hair loss sufferers because I knew that I wasn't alone. I knew that I wasn't the only guy out there who really felt the pain and the anguish of going through hair loss at an early age. While there was really no one to talk to, I was alone in this, as most people are initially. I was still open about it because it affected me so much. So I spoke to my family, and I spoke to my friends, and I know that I was a big pain in the ass to them. And most of them didn't really get it. They were just like, oh, move on, shave your head, not a big deal. You're still going to look fine. It's just hair. I knew that I wished that I had a support group And I thought that by, getting this information out to the public and creating a support group, that I wouldn't only be helping other people, but I'd be helping myself. It was cathartic for me. It was something that I needed. That's why I decided to do what I do. Obviously, it's not completely altruistic. I made a career out of this. I make a living doing this. And there may have been some selfish motives initially just to help myself, to learn everything I need to know about the industry, to get involved in the field so that if I needed something, whether it was surgical hair restoration or a hairpiece or whatever it is, I would know where to go and who the best companies to work with or to go to were. And most importantly, and I was talking about this very thing with with Common Law the other day, I created a place where I can talk about what's considered to be neuroses about hair loss. I created a place where I can vent and I can talk and I can share my thoughts and feelings about how hair loss affected me. And in turn, it created all these resources and this platform for all of you out there who are dealing with hair loss. So I understand there's some technical issues with my sound. I'm not sure what they are, but maybe Andrew could help me out with that. But I interviewed a company today that I think is on the verge of doing something great. You guys know the company if you've been listening to the show for a long time. The company is Replacel, and they just put out a press release today, basically describing the use of their hair loss technology for a different application, for tendon repair, for people who have chronic tendonitis. And I wanted to talk to them about that, why they were going in that direction. And I also wanted to, get some information about their phase 2 trials, which I did. We did about an hour-long interview, and I was lucky enough not only to speak with David Hall, who you guys have seen before and have listened to in several interviews before here at The Bald Truth, but I had a chance to speak with Dr. Ralph Hoffman. And if you guys know anything about Replacel, Dr. Hoffman is one of the founding scientists, along with Kevin McElwee, who is a friend of The Bald Truth. And they've been working on Replacel, working on this technology since about 2003. And I got to tell you guys, I've said this before, but a lot of you guys out there were disappointed by the initial trials, which to me it was a stellar success. These things happen in increments, but I will tell you that I believe that they are on to a true science, a true technology that is really going to change people's lives. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in 2 years, and it may not even happen in 3 or 4 years. But it's going to happen, and they are getting closer and closer. And I don't know how I just transitioned into that, because I'm kind of hyper involved with everything that's happening here and a little bit preoccupied with my new equipment and having some problems with it. But to kind of circle back, when I started in this industry, when I started losing my hair, there was nothing. We had nothing to help us. Minoxidil, Rogaine, wasn't even approved by the FDA for hair loss yet. Finasteride was just, no one was even writing about it, I mean, the drug came out for benign prostate hyperplasia in 1992. So when I started to go through this, there was really nothing. I think about the kids today, and to get back to the interview that I did today, and I think about all these companies that are really working on a cure now, that are really actively working on effective treatments. I had none of that. We had nothing. So if you're losing your hair today, you're 21, 22 years old, I'm not going to put my hand on the Bible and swear to this, but I can almost guarantee that you guys will not live your adult lives as hair loss sufferers, your entire adult lives as hair loss sufferers. There's a good chance that by the time you're in your 30s, this will all be over. So instead of suffering, instead of sitting there and in your parents' basement or wherever you guys are, depressed and spending every waking moment on the message forums, I would tell you to try to go out and develop your lives. Even if it's a little more difficult right now, go out there and earn. Figure out how you're going to make your money. Figure out how you're going to find your niche, your place in society. And don't let this cripple you, because I am 100% convinced that for the young guys, this will not be a lifelong affliction, and that you will be able to solve this within your young lives. 888-659-3727. Now, I have no idea if we're going to be able to take phone calls tonight. I have no idea what my bandwidth is like. It was fine this afternoon. But this is really the the time of the day that I have problems. And frankly, I'm shit out of luck. I don't know what we're going to do. I tried to, contact an outside, non-mainstream internet company that would have to put up like a Wi-Fi signal on my home. And I was told that probably wouldn't do the trick. So, we'll see. We're going to do our best until Time Warner fixes this shit. 888-659-3727. Let's see if I can take this call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? Hello, you're on the air. Who's this?
Am I on the air?
Yes. Can you hear me, Joe?
Hello? Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Can you hear me, Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, let me talk. Ladies and gentlemen, am I coming in?
Joe, can you hear my voice at all?
Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me, Spencer?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay. I want to tell the audience, I recently and tragically celebrated my 55th birthday.
Wait a second. Happy birthday, Joe. I'm so sorry that I missed your birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, I'm so happy about it, actually. I've seen a lot of life. I was born in the 1950s. I've seen a man land on the moon. I've seen marvelous medical breakthroughs. We can now treat cancer. We can cure many forms of cancer. My mother is a cancer survivor for 30 years. We can treat HIV now. It's a treatable disease. Before it was a death sentence. Medical science has come so far, we can treat so many things. But guess what? The most horrendous disease to afflict mankind. I can't believe it, that I'm fucking 55 years old, and I still can't treat my hair loss, and my millions of brothers and sisters can't treat this terrible affliction that cripples us from living our lives. I implore Histogen, Adirans, Brepicel, Allergan. You may not have a cure, but give us something. Isn't something better than nothing? Wake up, guys. Smell the coffee. The hell with the FDA. Go offshore. Set up shop. We gotta end this goddamn tragedy once and for all. Help us, please. Thank you.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like to may I reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, that was beautiful. I don't even know what to say to that. First of all, I want to say happy birthday. I know
Thank you, man. I won't say the date, obviously, but it was within the last several days. Obviously, I can't name the date on the air, but it was in the last several days. I know you don't know the exact date, but
I do not. You didn't give me the. I never knew the exact day of your birthday, but I.
Well, I'll email you. I'll email you so you know for next year. I hope next year we're not here talking about the same old stuff. I guess we probably will be, but I'm so Spencer. I'm so inanimate. I'm so shocked. I'm actually shell-shocked by what's going on. I mean, if nothing comes out of this hair loss Congress, I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. I spoke to Ralph Hoffman today from Replicel, David Hall. I know that Kevin McGowie is going to be at the Congress. I communicated with Craig Ziering today. He's going to be at the Congress. I'm hoping to get some potential Skype interviews from these guys at the Congress. at the meeting. However, I can almost tell you guys with certainty that what's going to come out of this is going to be all positive stuff, but it's not going to make you guys happy. It's not going to be, we're not going to find out about the end of hair loss. It's not happening this year. My interview with the Reposol guys today was very enlightening and very exciting. And there's some new stuff that once we, put the interview out there, you guys will learn about. But they're getting closer and closer to making this happen for all of us. They really are. So let's forget about the phase 1 trials that everyone was so disappointed about, because the truth is their main concern was to test for safety. And that was a tremendous success. And also, it's very rare that 2/3 of a trial population have any success with a particular drug or treatment. And in this particular trial, that was the case. So just like I said, a year ago, this is exciting stuff. And I don't care what people are saying online, all the speculation that's out there. These guys are moving forward in a positive direction. I can say the same for Histogen, and I can definitely say the same for Adirans. So whatever comes out of this conference, whatever news is misconstrued or twisted in some fashion, or spun, it's all positive stuff. You and I didn't have any of this, Joe. There was no light at the end of the tunnel for us. It just didn't exist back in the day. Now it does.
Yeah, but nothing exists now. That's the sad part, Spencer. I mean, these cats, Adirans, I'm really in a bad mood. I hope you can understand it. I suffer from bipolar disorder, as you know.
Yeah, really? I didn't know. Yeah, that's right.
Today's a really bad day for me. I mean, these guys, Adirans, they've been out for 10 years. What do they have to show for it? Nothing.
How do you? Why do you say they have nothing to show for it? Just because they don't have a treatment
where can I go tomorrow to treat my hair loss? Maybe you could tell me some place and tell millions of people listening to the show. This is why we're so frustrated.
I would love to, Joe, but that's not the case. You know that. But they're
very frustrated.
They're closer than they've ever been, and I just wish you guys would understand that. You think I'm happy having to paint my head? I worked all day today on the air, so I had to do my thing, work out, and then I had to rush into the shower because I was going to be on camera. And it's not just a normal shower where a guy just takes a shower and combs his hair back and goes on with his life. I have to blow dry my hair in a specific way. Then I have to add some makeup on the back of my head to cover the thinning areas. Then I have to comb it back again, and then I have to spray it. And I have to wait a minute, and then I have to comb through the hairspray and comb it again just to get a semblance of a normal-looking hairstyle. So this is my life, and I know that people are much worse off than me for sure. But don't you think?
That's millions of people listening to the show.
Right, but don't you think? And listen, I feel that's why I'm so grateful. I tell people all the time how grateful I am, and how lucky I feel to be able to do what I do and to kind of work with the sham that is my hair, where other people don't have that opportunity. But I'm still suffering in a sense. And I am still, it's still just as painful to me to think about, whenever I see a couple of hairs in the sink, or if things just don't look right that day. So believe me, I'm with you guys. I want this to end. But I actually, because of the information that I believe is positive, and these guys, they tell me one thing. To me, they're illustrating some really positive results, all these companies. But to the mainstream hair loss consumer, not even the mainstream, I'd say some of the fringe guys, the guys who really spend a lot of time on the internet and on the message forums, it's not, none of it's positive news unless they're cured or unless the treatments are there for them today. And I understand that. It's frustrating not to have them. But God, Joe, come on. I mean, this is all, all positive stuff. I'm just afraid that after the conference, people are going to go crazy. There's going to be some, information out there about Histogen or Adirans that's going to be, maybe it's going to be kind of a small push forward, but it's still going to be nothing. Then all of a sudden someone's going to say, just like you, Joe, 10 years, what does Adiran have to show for it?
Well, Spence, I recently reached 55 years old, and it just really, it's hit me really hard this week. You know what I'm saying, Spencer?
I understand that, Joe, but I don't want to reprimand you. I understand that you are a man who's suffered for a very long time. But to me, when you're
almost 40 years.
To me, when you're 55 years old, you got a wife and kids, you have so many more options than a young guy who is 19, 20 years old as far as living your life, at least looking like you have a full head of hair. To me, a guy your age, a guy in your position, who can have any hairpiece in the world, we'd be more than happy to help you here at The Bald Truth. I've said that before. You can live your life looking good if you chose to, without having to wear a hat and wear a bandage over your head. But you choose not to because you have this fucking thing in your head that it's appalling, to you. It's repugnant to you to wear a hairpiece. However, you could live your life if you chose to go that route, without living in hiding, without staying in your room. You can socialize. You could, do whatever you wanted to do and feel comfortable in your own skin. Because when you're 55 years old, and you're married, you don't have to worry about some young broad putting their hands through your hair.
Well, Spencer, like me, I'm a very wealthy person, and money doesn't do anything. You can't buy hair.
No, that's not. You can buy hair. That's what you don't. That's what you don't fucking understand, Joe. You can buy hair.
Where?
It comes in the form of a hairpiece. And you can buy really great hair. If it's done correctly, you spend enough money, and you know how to do it right, no one will know. You're 55 years old. You don't have, who knows how much life you have left? Why not live your life?
I hope not too much longer, Spencer, to be honest with you, because at this point, I just want it to be over.
Listen,
that's the way I feel.
Listen, all you young guys, and again, I have to use Joe as an example of how not to live your life as a hair loss sufferer. And Joe, you understand what I'm doing. It's important that people, the young guys understand that the way that you handle this and the way that you're living your life is at an extreme end of the spectrum. Whereas,
Spencer, there are millions of people who live their lives just like me, you know that.
I would say that there are plenty of people who live their lives just like you, but that doesn't mean to say that it's not healthy. That's not a positive. I don't think, and again, don't take offense to this, Joe, but you're not a positive role model, in my view, to the young hair loss sufferers out there. You are an example of how not to live your life as a hair loss sufferer. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you agree with that?
No, I think young hair loss sufferers, like you said before, have a lot to look forward to. There won't be a cure within their youth. They'll have their youth. There's no doubt about that. But people like me, an artista, will have hair, but we'll never have our youth back.
I was watching an episode of Dr. Phil yesterday, believe it or not.
Well, that guy's repulsive, man. I can't stand his hair.
Well, I don't think he's repulsive, but and Kamala was watching. She's like, "You got to see this." He had this woman on who was basically had her face shot off. 21 years ago, she was working in a convenience store and she was robbed. And this 14-year-old girl came in with a sawed-off shotgun, took the money, put it to her face, and pulled the trigger, and her entire jaw was blown off.
Mm-hmm.
She's had over 100 operations, and she still doesn't look anywhere near what most people would consider normal. And I was looking at her, and I was thinking about all the crap that I read every Tuesday when I read the forums on the message forum, and thinking about your story, and thinking, God, what this woman would give to just be able to glue some hair on her head, and have a normal face, and walk out in the world and live her life. She would give anything to live that life. So when I think about you, Joe. When I think about the options that you have, especially since it's so much easier when you're not single to deal with a prosthetic.
I am single, believe me, man. I am single.
All right. Well, at 55, no woman, especially if you look good, if you're wearing a hairpiece at 55, everyone's going to understand. The point that I'm trying to make is there's so much worse out there, and there's people deal with so much worse. What about these young women who are forced to wear hairpieces and wigs? And they live their lives. 25, 26-year-old women. What do you think, that they hide in their bedroom under a hat for the rest of their lives? I'm bringing this up because it was just your birthday, Joe, and I've known you. You've been calling the show for 14 fucking years.
It'll be 15 in September.
And you're getting worse. You're not getting better. Yeah. You're getting worse. That's not what this program is about. I really wanted to create a support group for people to either find ways to help themselves and, stop the progression of their hair loss safely, or to regain some hair. Or if that wasn't possible, give them an opportunity to kind of, view things from a different perspective and perhaps get the ability to move on with their lives. And I haven't been able to do that with you, Joe. And, I'm extremely frustrated.
No, Spencer, you're misunderstanding me. It's my birthday, and I'm saying I agree with you. Young hair loss sufferers have a lot to look forward to. In the next few years, there will be a viable treatment.
Joe, you're not even fucking listening. I'm focusing on you right now. I'm talking about you.
Well, that's not fair to the audience. Is focusing on me, is it, Spencer? This is my birthday. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it is fair to the audience because the audience needs to hear this. They need to They need to look at you as an example of how not to live their lives. You're a wonderful guy, Joe. You really are.
I appreciate that.
I wouldn't have you on the program for so long. I wouldn't allow you to call in. Like I always say, there's a part of Joe in every one of us. So you are used as,
That's quite true.
Your entertainment value is there. The fact that you bring a lot of research to the table, and also the fact that, I think it's important that people listen to you every week and hear, your difficulties in life and kind of use you as an example to say, you know what? I don't want to be like this motherfucker. I want to live my life. I want to try to do something positive in my life and not let hair loss destroy me like it has Joe from Staten Island. Now, that sounds harsh, but I've told you this before, and we've spoken about this. I mean, that's a big part of your role in this show.
I appreciate that.
But I want to, I want to see you get out there. I don't want to see you the next time that I see you, whether it's Blog World or wherever, wearing that hat and that bandage.
Well, maybe Dr. Wesley, who we'll get to in a few minutes, could hook me up with something.
All right, well, that was a good transition. A lot of people have been asking me and writing about Dr. Carlos Wesley. Now, obviously, I came on the air a couple of weeks ago, and I described what I saw he basically presented me with a private video and PowerPoint presentation that was pretty in-depth. Now, I do understand that he's shown some other people similar presentations, but not quite what he provided me with. And I made it clear that I really believe that if he is doing what he's claiming to do, and if that video that I saw and those PowerPoint slides were completely accurate, and if he was able to replicate those results that he showed me, and he was able to duplicate, or he was able to show people how to duplicate that procedure using the instrumentation that he's developing, I truly believe that this will change surgical hair restoration forever. And there's absolutely nothing like it in the market. I don't care what some of the guys are saying about some of the European doctors. The truth of the matter is, in my view, what Dr. Wesley has been able to show me is a better mousetrap. It is it appears to be a far superior form of surgical hair restoration. Now, again, I'm going to preface this by saying I could be having the wool pulled over my eyes. That is a possibility. And I don't think it's a great idea for everyone to pick up the phone and get this procedure done right away. He is still working on, different iterations of his instrumentation. But I do know that he's going to be presenting this technology and this technique at this year's ISHRS conference. And I have spoken to several other doctors in hair restoration who are fairly excited about it as well. So it's not just me. I do not believe that's a gimmick. And I honestly believe that this could be a huge step forward in surgical hair restoration. And I think a lot more people will be able to benefit from surgical hair restoration, utilizing this technique. Now, this technique may be utilized as an adjunct to, traditional FUE or even to, traditional follicular unit harvesting, strip procedure. But whatever it is, I do believe that people who, once they see it, they're going to be extremely impressed, and they're going to say, you know what? Wesley really did it.
Well, let me ask you two brief questions. I've been reading about it. A, people would say it may increase donor area, and B, why does he need FDA approval? That I've seen online that he's seeking FDA approval. I don't understand that. Explain those two topics to me about Dr. Wesley.
Well, I think the FDA approval may be confusion. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that it's FDA clearance for the instrumentation. It's for the instrument itself. I'm not 100% sure if that's what he meant, but from what I understand, there is no need for what we know as FDA approval, which is really based on drugs and protocols to get drugs approved. I can't speak tonight. I think it's more like FDA clearance. And I think, there's a lot of reasoning for that. And one main thing is, you want to make sure that, it's considered safe, that the instrument is considered safe for use on the general public. So I think that's important. But as far as FDA approval, I can't see why this technique would have to be FDA approved. So I think
he said it, and on a BaldTruthTalk.com, Dr. Wesley Presley said it. You can go look it up. He said it.
I believe he did write that. I didn't actually see that, but it's possible that, sometimes FDA approval and FDA cleared kind of is interchanged. So I'm assuming it's FDA cleared. I can speak to Dr. Wesley to get more information on that, to clarify that, but I'm assuming he meant FDA cleared.
Could you elaborate one more point first, Dr. Wesley? People are saying online that you're saying it may increase donor area. Is that true? Is that false? Or you're not sure?
All I said was that theoretically, in my view, judging from, and I'm trying to be diplomatic here, judging from what I saw in the video and the PowerPoint presentation, there's no reason to believe that if this instrument is used in a specific way, that it couldn't, that there couldn't be a procedure developed that would possibly regenerate the donor area. That's what I mean. I believe that theoretically it can, and I spoke to Dr. Wesley about it, and after, kind of describing my thoughts and, talking to him, he's like, yeah, theoretically, for sure. So, we'll see. We'll see what direction he goes, and I'm pretty sure, look, if I were him, I would go in that direction. I did talk to him about that, and I'm sure we're going to speak a lot. He contacted me yesterday, so, hopefully, if I have some time this week, I'll be able to have a conversation with him. But there's no reason to believe that if you are able to, and the patent was put out, so you guys who are part of the Bald Truth and Bald Truth Talk, and actually it's on another forum as well, I think Hair Loss Experiences, which is it's a European forum, who's run by a really good guy, by the way. You know that this is a procedure that is really being performed underneath the skin, which is, that's exciting stuff.
And I just wanted to bring one more. I ask one more question about Dr. Wesley, and I bring up one piece of news, if you don't mind.
All right, and then I'm going to take some more calls. Now, how is the phone tonight?
Excellent. Can I just bring up a little news about Allergan, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my understanding, and I have no evidence of this. What I've heard, and I have no evidence of this, is their formulation. They're using a special type of agent that penetrates the scalp. Okay, will penetrate the scalp, and they're using a much, much stronger version of Imodapros, the active ingredient in Latisse. So don't wait, you guys out there, don't waste time with Latisse. It won't do anything. What your allergen is using is much, much more powerful. Okay, this is not a fact. This is just what I've been hearing. Okay, this is not factual, so please don't quote me on it. This is what I've been hearing. Well, expect the announcement very shortly from Mulligan. I believe that my expert opinion that we're going to phase 3 really soon, and this will be on the market sooner rather than later. Doctors will be selling it. I mean, that's the bottom line. What's your opinion on that, Spencer?
I'm curious. What's going on with Artista? Are you giving him shit in the chat room? What's happening?
No, Artista has an obsession with hair transplants. I don't know. He's an obsession with it. I don't know. I can't understand it.
Well, you know
Whatever.
what, Joe, and I'm going to say this again, and I've told you this for 15 years. I always tell people that surgery is the last resort, but I am a big believer, and that's why I got involved in this industry. And that's why when I wrote my chapter initially in the first Bald Truth, I was able to write what I felt that was an extremely enlightening chapter about the positive aspects of surgical hair restoration, as opposed to what I thought hair transplantation was before I was lucky enough to find Bob Bernstein many years ago. And I can tell you that there are many lives who are being changed for the better, who have undergone surgical hair restoration, who have been able to move on with their lives. They found the right doctors, they were with the right staff, they were the right candidates, and they are living wonderful lives, and they're much more comfortable in their own skin because of this procedure. So you paint surgical hair restoration with the same brush, and it's an extremely broad brush. There's a lot of people who are being helped by it, and I find it interesting, and it actually gets me a little upset when you speak about Joe Tillman from Hassan and Wong and say, well, he doesn't really have a full head of hair. This guy was so fucked up. If you look at his old pictures and you see him now and you see him in person, you see his level of confidence and his ability to move on with his life, his ability to get to marry a beautiful woman and build a career compared to what he once was, a shell of what he is today. And he's the first one to admit that. He's walking around with really bad mini and micrographs as a young guy. And he found a doctor and he found a procedure that changed his life. And there are thousands upon thousands of guys just like that. With that said, there are people who are very unhappy with their hair transplants. There are people who go out there and they find, doctors who we think are doing the greatest work since sliced bread, who are unhappy with their hair transplants. It's cosmetic surgery. People can get fucked up at any point. But you constantly paint this picture of surgical hair restoration like, well, it's not a complete cure, so it's no good.
But Spencer, I never commented on Joel Tillman. I never said I never said anything negative or positive about him. I said I have no comment on Joel. That's all I said.
Well, I think that you said a couple of things, not terrible about him, but like, well, when he was
have no comment on
when he was on the air a couple of times, you were like, well, you can't get a full head of hair, so what's the point? And and then you were asking me what Joe's crown looked like and stuff like that. I'm not saying you said anything really negative about Joe because it's hard to. He looks good. But my point is, if people want to live their lives for today, and that they understand that the entire scope and possible pitfalls of surgical hair restoration, no matter if you're going to the best doctor in the world, you could get fucked up. If people understand that, and they're willing to go for it, there's a likelihood that they're going to get a good result and move on with their lives and maybe have some years of happiness. I know a lot of guys who have. I just got a call from a guy that I used to hang out a lot with in New York. And he's had multiple procedures. He's gone to a lot of different doctors. I think the last procedure he had was with Victor Hassan. It was a large procedure. I think he's about 50 years old now. Now, even though he's constantly kind of chasing his tail because he's not taking finasteride, he's still, with all the procedures he has, he still looks good, and he has still been able to move on with his life and have success in his career and with women because he decided to go this route. Now, yes, is it perfect? No. But, when you were to look at this guy, he would have been a Norwood 6, and now he's a guy with a nice hairline, decent frontal forelock, and a thinning crown, and that's been progressing because he's not taking finasteride. But he'll be the first to tell you that with all the procedures he's been through, and some of them weren't that great, he still has a greater net gain than if he decided not to go for surgery.
Yes, but I just hope that one day we have unlimited donor area. I mean, that would be great for everybody. You could have 40,000 grafts and no at 6.
Joe, of course. Don't you think I want that? Everybody wants that. Listen, I'm going to take another phone call. I'll keep you on hold, all right?
By much. You're breaking up a little bit, like half as much as last week. I have to tell you that.
Well, that's fine. Really, that's better than complete breaking up and whatever I just said.
No, much better than last week.
All right. Hold on for a second.
I want to thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I do appreciate it.
Well, happy birthday, Joe. We love you here at The Bald Truth. You know that.
Thank you, Spencer. Will I be on hold?
Yes. Jesus. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Spencer, my friend, how are you?
Hey, Johnny, man. How you been?
Been good, buddy. How are you?
I'm okay, man. I'm hanging in there. Are you able to hear me on the phone?
It's a little choppy.
Okay, well...
we'll get through it.
Yeah, I have... unfortunately, I have no control. This could last for months. It really depends on Time Warner.
Hey, you know what, man? We can get through it. Hey, Joe, happy birthday. My hair loss brother from another mother. I'm happy that you're, every day above ground's a good day. Believe it or not.
I love your attitude, Johnny, because you were fucked. You were totally screwed by this industry, and you still have a good attitude. You still live your life. As sad as it makes you feel, as uncomfortable as you still are at times, you figured it out for the most part.
Well, it's one day at a time, but when you're talking about Joe Tronics and what the transformation outside from what he was to what he is now, but look what it did to him inside. I mean, look what look what he was able to do. It took a lot of courage for him to, put a journal out on the internet and to chronicle everything that went on, with his journey. And
are you kidding me?
It made him a stronger person inside.
You're talking about, Joe Tillman. Are you kidding me, man? He was the original hair loss mentor. I don't care who has come after Joe. Joe fucking started it all. That guy was absolutely amazing, and I think the evolution of what we know now as the hair loss community online, the online hair loss community. He set an example for everybody who's doing what they do today, whether they're in the industry or whether they're just out there putting up blogs. He did it all. It actually angers me when I read stuff from these younger guys on the forum who bash Joe Tillman. And they're like, no one has ever done anything. No one has ever, put themselves out there, maybe somebody put themselves out there recently. And I see a guy, I think, what about Joe? Joe started it all.
He's got more balls than I do.
But, he put it, you're talking about full frontal, man. You know what I'm saying? This guy did the full Monty. I don't know if I would have been able to, maybe at this stage of my life, but he started young. Put pictures of me when, let's face it, Joe, I see you in the chat room. Your plugs look like shit. It was not good. And you lived like that. And even though you got past it, a lot of people would just want to forget about that. You put yourself out there for the world to see with your pants down, basically. And that is on the internet forever.
Well, and I think that's what Artiste was trying to explain to Joe, especially because, he, I think, has a personal relationship with Bob Man from Hassan and Wong.
Yeah.
And, I'm a big fan of Hassan and Wong because I think they're, looking at their results, looking at Joe Tronics, looking at Bob Man. I know they may be, at times, the exception, not the rule, but, consistently Hassan and Wong knocks it out of the park. They really do. With their, with the results they get. I can understand Joe from Staten Island. I've been screwed. He's been screwed. You feel hopeless. But with some of the news that are coming out with Replicel, what you talked about, Dr. Wesley, there's not a cure tomorrow. But as we go forward, things are starting to progress. I'm still trying to be positive and think up.
And I think that's what we need. We need to be a little upbeat.
And I think Replicel may be onto something, Spencer.
Listen, I think that they are, and I think these other companies are as well, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. So what we have to deal with is what we have today. Well, I took a little time. I didn't have a lot of time to read the forum today. I usually spend an hour or so on the forum on Tuesdays, but I was doing this Replicel interview. But I went on there briefly, and I read some stuff. Obviously, I missed Dr. Wesley's response. But when I see these young guys who are just paralyzed by this, and I understand it, it's like you guys have to figure it out somehow, because there's more to life than just thinking about your hair loss. Listen, hair loss sucks, man. It changes you completely. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, most guys look a lot worse without their hair. That's just the way that it is. Once your hairline starts to recede and that framing of the face, is gone, you can look like a completely different person. You can go from a really attractive guy to a guy that, is going to struggle in that department, for sure.
Well,
but it doesn't mean that it's the end of life as we know it. It doesn't mean that it's the end of your life, those young guys who are listening. And doesn't mean that you can't correct it to some degree to at least live your life now and not have to wait for Adirans or Replacel or Histogen before you can go on and have a good life.
Well, and two, Spencer, let's say Joe from Staten Island would have had the techniques of today instead of the butchering of back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah, it would have changed his life.
I know I would have a different view on life.
Absolutely. You both would have had a different view on life, but you seem to be a lot more reasonable. You've talked about your depression. You've talked about how difficult your life has been. You've talked about, you once told me that story when you were out with your boys at the strip club and,
right.
You had to take off your hat. I mean, that is devastating stuff. That's the stuff that, people have post-traumatic stress about. You know what I mean? But
you know what, Spencer? Life goes on. You just got to sort of grin and bear it.
And I'm not saying that there are worse things. I'm not saying that it's easy to grin and bear it. I'm just saying that, and I talk about a couple of guys that I know in my life. One guy I've been out of touch with for a while, but he's a guy that is very unhappy about wearing a hairpiece, but he still does. He had bad surgery years ago. He went to a local dermatologist in New York, and he was not happy with it. He ended up wearing a hairpiece. A lot of the times, initially the systems weren't that great. And when I first met him, it wasn't that terrific. I helped him out, got him into some decent hair systems. And, when you were to look at this guy, and I always joke around, this is the guy that banged cocktail waitresses 2 at a time. You look at this guy, you would think he has no problems. He's a good-looking dude. It looks like he's got a really good head of hair. You really have to be an expert to know what to look for with the pieces that he's wearing now. He's miserable inside about it, and it's stifled him in his life in other ways. But he still was able to go out and meet beautiful women, tell them that he was wearing hair, and have relationships and live that part of his life, the way that a lot of these guys believe that they can never live. These guys believe that once they lose that hair, if it's not their own, or if they can't get it back with conventional transplants, or they can't potentially wear a hairpiece. Is that you, Johnny? Are you breaking up your garage or something?
No, it's choppy, Spencer, but
okay.
It's a little better.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess my point is that I always want people to know that there's hope no matter what your situation is. If medications don't work for you and you can't live, with a bald scalp, there are ways to deal with it. And none of these procedures or medications or prosthetics are perfect. You will still never be what you once were, as far as you're not going to have the same hair. It's not going to be 100% natural in your eyes. It's always something you're going to have to finesse or deal with, whether it's a transplant, whether it's a hairpiece. But there's life after hair loss, and you can live a good life. And I'm going on and on about this, Johnny, because it was Joe's birthday last week. And I hear him call every year after his birthday, every year Christmas, every year on Thanksgiving, with the same fucking story, the same old shit. He never gets well, and actually he's getting worse. So when you call in and you have a positive attitude, even though that you were fucked by the industry as well, it just kind of, I think, illustrates how different people deal with this situation.
Well, it's tough. I mean, I try to put on a positive attitude about it, but it's tough. It really is. I mean, there's situations that present itself that you're sort of like I'm handcuffed. But you just go on. You try to find ways to deal with it.
Well, listen, I understand we're having some technical problems. The show froze again, and Andrew just hooked back up with me, so hopefully that's going to be fixed. And you're right, Johnny. You just deal with it. But it's like anything else in life. You got to live it one day at a time.
Not to get off on a tangent, but how was your house guest last week?
I have to tell you that Andrew Zarian was surprisingly probably the best house guest I've ever had.
Now, will Los Angeles still be the same?
Nothing's burning down. But I will tell you this: his reputation, definitely it's relatively accurate.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about any type of national, emergencies or anything the next time he comes into town.
No. Listen. I'll tell you what. He's a very, very respectful guest.
Yeah,
he kind of did his own thing a lot of the time. There was one creepy moment. The first night I woke up, and I get up early. It was probably like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm looking at my wife beater, and I go outside, and I don't have my hat on. I figured no one's going to be there. Andrew's sitting there in one of our chairs, and you see nothing but this guy, like this weird-looking figure, because he was kind of like, I don't know the way he was sitting, with his computer light, his laptop light in his face, and he scared the fuck out of me. He's
sort of like took your virginity.
he scared the shit out of me, man.
Popped your cherry.
So, but no, he's a great house guest. He's a good kid. I really enjoyed myself. I think he enjoyed himself being here. And
he's a good guy. I tell you what, the GFQ is going places.
Are you kidding me? He just won this big award in Queens, like Business of the Year or some shit. I don't know exactly what it is. So he's doing well. He's definitely doing
well. Spencer, I'm going to let you go. You're breaking up a little bit. Hopefully, maybe as the night goes on, the reception will get better.
Yeah.
It's nice talking to you, buddy.
All right, dude. Listen, thanks a lot. 888-659-3727. Obviously, we're hitting the height of internet traffic here. I'm going to have to, contact Time Warner again and basically say, I'm having trouble with my business here. I can't produce my product. It's fucking ridiculous. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back after this, so stay with us.
Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Any of you that have ever felt stepped on, left out, picked on, put down, whether you think you're a nerd or not, why don't you just come down here and join us, okay? Come on.
That bit always cracks me up. Welcome back. 888-659-3727. It's a guy that used to work for the show for many years. Dave Salazzo was my sidekick. I think that was his attitude about the program in a nutshell. But we do miss him here. We really do. Have not spoken to him in quite a long time. He kind of disappeared from the Bald Truth family. But I hope that he's doing well. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. It's possible that you can hear the phone calls tonight. It's possible you're not going to get through. Time Warner has really fucked me, unfortunately. I have been a long-time subscriber, user, customer of Time Warner Internet Cable and Time Warner Cable in general. And they won't fix my shit. I don't even know what to do. I have no other internet resources to get the show out to you people. That's it. They've been out here 4 fucking times. I may have to tweet this segment directly to them. Maybe we can get something done. Maybe collectively we can get something done. 888-659-3727. Let me see if I take a call. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Spence.
Yes.
Hey, Boston B. How are you?
Boston B. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sound fine.
All right. So what's
kind of choppy on the computer, but you're fine on the telephone.
So what's happening, man? How are you?
Not too bad. Just a crazy week up here with those friggin' numbskulls killing everybody.
I'm so sorry about that tragedy. Obviously, the whole country obviously feels for your town and for those poor people, and it's insanity.
It was just crazy. They did it at the marathon, and then they hijacked a guy I'd say probably a mile and a half from my house, and they drove pretty much right by the place, and you could hear the bombs going off. So at least they got one of them. They should have just took care of the both of them, but hopefully
they wanted to get
the other one in prison.
They wanted to get some intel. It's actually better that that he did survive, so they were able to get some intel. And what's interesting is apparently they were going to Manhattan next.
Yeah. And what's even better was the state of Massachusetts was pretty much funding the whole thing. The scumbags were here for 10 years from Chechnya, claimed political asylum.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Like that. So the state put them on welfare, and they had free schooling, free college. It's a friggin' joke.
It is a freaking joke. You think about you think about our country, man.
We paid for the whole thing. We paid for everything. They were supposed to be on asylum or something like that, but they'd go back to Chechnya for 6 months.
Yeah.
And they'd still be funding their welfare and their EBT cards and everything else. So, the governor and the state, in a way, had something to do with it.
Well, listen, I didn't want to get involved in politics, and I try not to. I try not to divulge my politics too much, but I'm certainly a little more conservative by nature. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm definitely more of a social liberal. But when it comes to things like this, I'm definitely more on the fence, more on the side of being a conservative. And I'm not going to get into it, but I can tell you that I thought about that too. When I read about all that shit, I was just like, it just fucking figures.
Yeah, and they just don't. They said they want to keep the guy's privacy. They didn't want to give what they were getting for welfare.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that what a fucking country, man?
The scumbag's dead. What privacy? What about all the guy? There was probably, I think, 26 people had their legs blown off.
Yeah, I'm surprised the ACLU didn't get involved.
Did you hear they hired they gave and I'll end this right away.
Yeah.
But they gave the scumbag that's still alive. They have the best lawyer in the country for getting people off on the death penalty. She was just assigned the case yesterday.
Oh, wait a second. So is she with the ACLU?
Yeah, something like that. But she got all like the Unabomber off, the death thing.
I kind of missed that part.
Murderers off of the death penalty. So, and guess who's paying for that?
You know what I find. This is what I find interesting. I would assume that someone does that type of terrorism in this country, that they would be considered more of an enemy combatant as opposed to
Well, they wanted to. The people up here wanted to charge them with that, but they came in and the FBI was interviewing the guy for 14 hours, getting tons of information. And then the attorney general sent in a clerk magistrate and said, "That's it. No more interviews where you got to read them as Miranda rights."
Right.
And
that's such bullshit, man. That is
and
such
the scumbag's
bullshit.
laying in the same hospital room where one girl had two of her legs blown off, and he was in the next room.
Wow.
The best hospitals in the world. So
that is weird. So what's happening?
Back onto here. Just a couple quick questions. What's up with Dr. Nigam? Is this guy for real, or he just? I read some of the forums, and again, I contacted him to reach out, and maybe if Joe wanted to take a ride over there, he's willing to do that. And
look, let me.
I read on the forums. It just seems like I don't know.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. I have been talking about this type of stuff since I started in this industry. You really have to kind of take a look at how certain physicians present themselves on online message forums. There was a guy years ago by the name of a guy in Mexico by the name of Dr. Bazan. And he would go on certain hair loss forums, and I guess Andrew lost me again.
You're still here on the radio.
Yeah, I guess he would go on several message forums, and he was promoting his form of hair multiplication. He was signing people up. It was all over one of the kind of the fringe hair loss websites at the time, and people would ask me what I believed, and I told them, and I said I think that it's something to look at with a jaundiced eye. I would definitely not trust that what he's claiming is true. And next thing you know, a few years later, he was arrested by local authorities for a couple of different things. But I guess my point.
But he says he's going to like the hair Congress. I mean, I just read the.
Anybody can go. I can go to the hair Congress. I went to one of the. When I first got into this industry, I was invited to the big hair conference, the hair Congress. It was at the time it was being held in Washington D.C. at the Mayflower Hotel. I was like their guest. Anybody who's interested in hair in any way, shape, or form can get into that thing. It doesn't mean jack shit.
Did you mention? I mean, you speak to other doctors all the time. Is anybody else discussing this guy or
nobody? But listen,
okay.
I like to give people a benefit of the doubt, and I like to allow these conversations to go on Bald Truth Talk message forums. It's kind of a double-edged sword when you allow that. One major problem is it adds credibility to these guys. These guys end up getting business from our resources. They end up making money, and they end up making all kinds of claims. And then in the end, if things don't work out, then people are going, they're being harmed potentially, or they're just losing money and losing more precious time. But I can't go in there and I can't stifle this conversation because it's important that it gets out there.
Recommend maybe could you just have an interview and maybe call him out or I know that kind of legitimizes him a little bit. I understand that.
Well, this is the thing, I mean, there's a lot of things that. First of all, I'm not there. I'm not in India, and even if I was there watching the procedure, there's a lot of things that can appear to be legitimate that aren't necessarily legitimate. And I mean, who knows what the fuck is going on? This guy has to go out there, and he has to get legitimate papers published, and he has to prove his theory. He has to prove his methodology. Sadly, when doctors go out and they pander to the message forums, they pander to the most vulnerable of people. You understand, mainstream hair loss guys are not the same guys that really frequent the message forums. The guys that frequent the message forums are the most sensitive to hair loss.
Okay, enough about him. You said you're going to have Dr. Cole on this week. Is he coming on?
He's not coming on this week. Actually, I spoke to him briefly, and because of our technical problems, I figured, I don't want to do anything live with him. So maybe we can do a taped interview. I'm hoping at the beginning of next week, and I can get that up on the site. But he's totally into it. He wants to talk about what he's doing, and it's going to be good.
He was doing some regeneration also.
Well, he's claiming that he is, and I've known John for a long time, and he's usually, a pretty straight shooter. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to present us with some really interesting information about, what he's been able to find in his practice. I don't think it's going to be as groundbreaking as a lot of guys are hoping for, but again, I am not sure.
And on Dr. Wesley, I saw that he posted somebody put some stuff up on the forum. I don't know how they get that stuff. There was the stuff that he filed for a patent.
I mean, that's all. Anyone who does any research, if they're interested, they're going to find it. It's all public information. And I actually saw it on because we kind of see where people link to on our sites. I saw it on another message forum as well. So, it's out there. What are you going to do?
And I mean, it seems like I don't know, better than just getting the back of your head slit open and also having a bunch of moth hole.
Well, I think
but somebody did mention that if you're going in through the scalp like that, you could be screwing up underneath.
Well, that's a reasonable thought for sure, and that's I think what most laymen would think, and that was actually one of the first questions that I had. Yeah. But I can tell you that from my understanding, Dr. Wesley enters the scalp through a certain. I can't get into specifics in a certain way.
I can say because I saw the thing on your site. It looks like they make a slit on the side and then go in maybe a 2-inch slit.
Well, yeah, it's probably not even 2 inches, but I mean, it's kind of like an endoscopic approach, except they're able to actually see through using kind of like a sonogram technology. So they're actually able to see from above the scalp without having to worry about a camera, which is it's pretty groundbreaking. But I guess the biggest concern is what type of damage. If you're breaking up
Going through there.
Tissue, fibrous tissue. Is there going to be more scar tissue formed? Are there going to potential for damaging nerves and blood vessels? According to Dr. Wesley, and I can't get into specifics, but I kind of saw the process. The answer would be no. There's really no concern for that right now, at least according to what he's shown me in the experiments that he's been able to conduct. This is something they've worked on for many years, and like he said. Or like he said to me, his whole thing is, he's not going to get involved in this if he's going to harm patients. There's no point in building a better mousetrap if in the end he's going to create all types of fibrous tissues, really, to make it more difficult to go in and get more grafts at a later date. So it appears to be great.
Experiment on Joe.
He would experiment on Joe. I'm sure he would. Absolutely. But Joe's not going to... I don't think Joe's going to be happy because the bottom line is, at this point, he's not regenerating more donor. At this point, it's just going to be kind of like a traditional FUE without scarring or without visible scarring. And so if Joe gets a couple thousand grafts, it's not going to change his life. It's not going to make him happy. So.
Okay.
But well. This is what I'm going to say. I'm very positive about this, and there's no reason for me to favor one guy's procedure over another guy's procedure. There are probably plenty of doctors in the IHRS who are probably thinking to themselves, Kobren, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you talking about? Say it again?
Isn't he just going to sell this equipment or machine?
Yeah, it's just going to be like everything. It's going to be like Jim Harris.
It's going to be like a punch.
Yeah, it's going to be like Jim Harris's safe system. Right. It's going to be like everything else. And he's going to train doctors, and it's just going to be a device and a new technique that's going to evolve this industry. And I think that it's very, very powerful. I think this is bigger than most people really understand. And I do believe that if all goes well, as advertised, so to speak, that this will completely change the way surgical hair restoration is performed.
And have you talked to other doctors about it? Like you said,
I have.
Took a call saying, "What the hell are you doing?"
Well, I can tell you that several doctors contacted me. It was actually pretty interesting because they obviously either subscribe or tune into the show. The next day after I announced it on the broadcast, I had 4 phone calls, and then I had 2 phone calls the following day, and then the phone calls have been trickling in, throughout the last 2 weeks. A couple asked me, like, how can you, say that this is the next greatest thing since sliced bread if you haven't really seen any patients? And I said, I didn't say that. I said, if everything works as advertised, as it's described to me, then it will be. Period. So I think...
if you do speak to Dr. Cole, I'm sure he'll have an opinion on it.
Oh, yes. He will have an opinion on it, and it will be a fun opinion, I'm sure. He calls it the way that he sees it, and sometimes, in the past he's had to kind of not retract some statements, but kind of step back and say, well, maybe I was incorrect about that. Or there are plenty of times when he was correct about certain things that were being promoted in a very in a very flamboyant way, and he was right about that. So we'll see. Listen, I've been around the block. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not a kid. And I can tell you that there's no doubt in my mind that if this works as advertised, it will change the field forever. And that's a big statement coming from me. And the truth is, like I said, there are a lot of doctors out there who I know are unhappy about me saying that. But you know what? I'm not going to hide the truth. And this is the truth.
Well, they're all using, a lot of your doctors are using the robot now, artists, and a lot of your doctors are using the... what do you call it? The FUE, the robotic FUE type thing.
Listen, when I started this thing back when I went to these doctors back in 98, 99, everyone thought I was fucking nuts talking about the Woods technique. Everyone thought I was crazy. I'm like, listen, guys, you have to take this seriously. This is going to evolve the field. Eventually, this is what the hair loss consumer is going to want because it is certainly less invasive than having a traditional harvesting, a traditional strip technique. And a lot of people are going to gravitate to this, and I believe that this is a great procedure. People called me fucking nuts. The guy that wrote the first paper here in the U.S. told me that it couldn't be done. He said that it could not be done. And I had to...
Dr. Cole against it when it first came out also?
Dr. Cole was... Dr. Cole was actually... surprisingly willing to embrace it. I really had to convince him, though. You know, he kind of saw a couple of other guys taking interest, and I was telling him that there were a couple of other guys who were interested, and I said, listen, John, this is a great procedure. I have seen the results myself, and if you guys can figure it out, because Woods wasn't willing to share it at the time, then you're going to really create a much better environment in this industry, and you're going to help a lot of people. And he was one of the few guys that just kind of took it at face value and believed what I had to say. And that's why to this day I have such, you know, as difficult as John Cole can be just with some people, you know, people claim that he doesn't play nice, and you see the way that he is online. I have a great.
It seems like a perfectionist.
I have a great amount of respect for Dr. Cole. I really do. And we've gone head to head. He said some shitty things about me, and I've said some shitty things about him in the past. But the truth is, I think he's a good doctor who cares about what he's doing. He cares about his patients, and he's not afraid to tell people that. So that takes courage, and I respect him for that.
All right, one last thing. What would you do for the older guys like myself, Johnny Ohio, Joe, that have had shitty surgeries before? I mean, Joe's crying that he's 55. I'm 56.
Well, listen, I saw.
Would just like to get
your pictures. Your pictures were forwarded to me. I forgot to tell you.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So I'm
just thinking, what would you go for a FUE, FUT, or would you wait for Dr. Wesley? Or
well, let me tell you something. At your age, and I'm not that much younger than you. Especially looking and remembering the hair, you have salt and pepper hair, right?
Yeah.
And you still look like you have a decent amount of hair in your head. If you have the donor and you've already had the scarring.
Yeah, I have tons of donor.
If you have the donor and you already have the scarring and you find the right the physician with the right staff, I personally, and again, I've never had a procedure done,
right?
But I personally would not be against having a strip if I knew I wasn't going to shave my head and if I've already had some scarring on my head.
There's no way. I'd look like an axe murderer.
Yeah, so I mean, so if you already have some strip scars or some plug scars in the back, you had a couple of strips, right?
Yeah, I had scalp reduction on top.
Yeah, I mean, to me at this point, you're already in the game, and you got a lot of skin in the game, so to speak. I think if you go to the right guys to have a traditional strip and get every single graft, dissected without transection, and have all the grafts, robust grafts transplanted, you could really benefit from that. However, FUE is also a great way to go if you go to the right doctor who's doing FUE. It really depends. Are you willing to have the downtime from a traditional strip? Are you willing to sacrifice?
I'm telling you that you do a strip, and again, my last strip was old technology, probably 15 years or so ago, and I just didn't want to feel like going through that again.
Well, you know what? I will tell you that you're still getting a piece of scalp taken out of the back of your head, and if it's something that you think that you don't want to go through again, even if there's less pain with the initial injections, even if the healing process is a little better, even if you're going to a guy that really knows what he's doing, you're still having cosmetic surgery. They're still cutting a piece of scalp out of the back of your head. So there's going to be a downtime. There's going to be possible nerve damage. There's going to be numbness initially that can take a year or more to come back.
So then you're better off with the FUE?
I would say that in that case, if it's something that you don't want to deal with.
Even kind of looking at the Dr. Wesley's type thing, a small, you know what I mean? Maybe.
Well, that is a form of FUE. I really don't know how many of those type of procedures that Dr. Wesley is going to be performing right now until, his device really comes on the market. They may just be small experimental procedures. You may not, you may want to go in if you're going to have surgery and have a decent procedure of a couple of thousand grafts minimum done. But you can certainly contact Dr. Wesley, and I will tell you that there's a lot of guys on the IHRS who are doing, in my opinion, really great FUE. And Cole is one of them. Harris is another one of them. Bauman, even though people questioned his use of the NeoGraft, I've met a lot of his patients. I've spoken to some of his celebrity patients, and they are ecstatic because in his facility they understand surgical hair restoration, so he's doing it right. So there's a lot of guys out there who are doing really good FUE. Bob Bernstein is now using the Artist. He claims that in his hands, with the Artist, and they're working on like a new iteration of smaller punches?
Only I did. I contacted Cole's office a while ago because there's no way I could shave. I see some of the FUE pictures online when they do the surgery, and I just couldn't shave the back of my. I don't know why those guys just don't shave their whole head when they get it, because they just shave the back and they.
It's kind of a weird thing. I understand maybe the psychology of why they don't shave completely, because I don't know if I could.
It just doesn't.
Because I'd be looking at myself in the mirror saying, okay, I still have hair.
Those the Jewish sect with the
Hasidic Jews.
Braids on the front.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would, because I am Jewish. I would probably go for that. I would just get a big black hat. And a tallis and walk around town like that, and I can get away with it. But listen, it's, surgery is going to be there. I know that you're getting older, and you think, okay, I'm 56 years old.
Yeah, I just want to do one more, and that should be, if I do one more decent one, and I just want to say one thing for the young kids out there. I didn't have it before I got in the chair because it wasn't available. You guys are stupid if you're not taking finasteride. If I had taken finasteride from the time I was 20, whatever, whenever I started to lose my hair, what you guys can do now, I wouldn't need it. My hair would be fine. I mean, I probably need some work at the, at the high forehead, a little bit, but in the back, I'd be full.
When did you start taking finasteride? How long have you been on it?
I would say since 98 or so.
So you've been on it for a fucking long time. You obviously.
Long time I have. Believe me, there's no problem with there's no problem down below.
Dude, let me tell you something. Common law is like sick of me trying to get some. Believe me, you're with somebody for a long period of time, and they're still, horned up.
I've had a girlfriend for a long time. Yep.
Yeah. So
there's absolutely no problem.
And what's crazy is everyone.
I go to strip clubs all the time, and that's like the least. If anybody would ever say that would be a problem with there's no way. It's just impossible. They're crazy.
Well, I'm not going to say that.
Have a cure. You guys have a cure.
I'm not going to say that it's impossible, and there are absolute documented side effects, and I do believe that there is a small subset of guys who might be dealing with these long-term adverse side effects. However, from the time that we started, when we were younger, I'd say for the first 5 or 6 years that this was being talked about online, you never heard of a single case of permanent adverse side effects.
You never heard of it?
Well, you never heard of that too, but I have been in this game for a long time, so I have kind of seen what's been going on online for years. And until a couple of websites came out, it was just like, and obviously this happened to these people who developed these websites. It's a terrible thing, but there wasn't this outcry. It just wasn't there. And clinically, it just was not seen. And I understand how powerful sex is. What happens between our ears is the most powerful, aspect of sex. And I know, and I've had this before, like everybody else. You have a couple too many drinks when you're out at a bar when you're a kid, and all of a sudden, sex isn't happening the way that you want it to happen. If you have it in your mind that, okay, wait a second, that's happening because I'm on this drug. And you think about it, all of a sudden that adrenaline pops up, and you are thinking about it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, maybe if you're with the same girl every night, of course it's going to happen once in a while.
Well, that's life. That's life.
If that happens, try a different girl, and you won't have a problem.
But everyone attributes it to finasteride, and these guys that have been on it for 10, 12 years who all of a sudden say, you know what, I can't get it up. It's got to be the finasteride.
With the same girl. Why don't they try a different girl?
They're either with the same girl, or there's so many other aspects to sexual dysfunction. It could be anything. It can be just different health issues. But I want to make it clear.
Again, on the forum, I see the younger kids buying all this stuff that I've never heard of, and I'm saying, why would you be taking this stuff that's probably made in some friggin' factory in China or India or Mexico or something like that? They have no idea what's in it, and are you whatever, and I just would not be doing that.
Look, they're young, and when you're young, you do a lot of things that I find, that and I did a lot of things when I was younger that I probably wouldn't do today. But what I find most fascinating is that they will do whatever it takes to avoid finasteride, which is
why if they think the stuff works.
Which it works, and they would do anything to avoid it, and they're willing to go in the gray market to buy products and drugs that we don't know if, in fact, they're going to help, and we don't know if it's going to cause any severe adverse reactions or even long-term adverse reactions. So the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. However, I mean, it doesn't make sense intellectually, but I understand that emotionally, for sure. I understand why these kids would do that. I also understand why these kids are shit scared of finasteride, because I'm going to be honest, dude. If I was starting today and I looked up the drug, I would be fucking terrified, and I probably wouldn't take it.
But they should really look at the history. I mean, they used to give it for prostate cancer 20 years before this.
Actually, not prostate cancer, but benign prostate hyperplasia, prostate enlargement or swelling of the prostate. And yes, absolutely.
And I have a very, very, very older conservative doctor that prescribed, and he's a teacher at Harvard, and he won't even. I told him I was having problems sleeping at night, and he told me to take. He wouldn't even give me a prescription for it. He told me to take. I don't know. It's in the thing, but
melatonin.
Yes, melatonin. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to judge people. I'm not going to tell people to take this drug. I just let people. I speak about my experience and the experience of my friends and older guys like yourself, who are we're in the same age bracket basically, who started to take this drug before all this craziness started to get out there online. And there's not a single person in my personal life or anyone who I've recommended within my professional life either, that I know, who has had any adverse side effects whatsoever.
If I'd known about that 5 years earlier, believe me, I wouldn't have gotten scalp reductions. The first one split open. They fucked it up.
Oh, fuck, you told me that. That's a crazy story, man.
They fucked it up, and then I got the 2 or 3 smaller FUTs just to put grafts into that. So if I had it 5 years, I probably wouldn't have had any work done.
Well, you know what, and I have to basically I would say that that's probably my case. I started to take it at a relatively young age. I chose not to go under the knife when guys like Norman Orenreich and some other doctors said, that I should try a few hair transplants and give it a go. I got on it early enough to really slow the significantly. And while I do, I'm self-deprecating about the way my hair looks and when I have to deal with it, how I have to deal with it, I still feel so lucky that, I have enough to comb over. I have enough to paint,
I told you that when I first got in and they explained it to me, and I said, yeah, and then they started saying, well, we gotta put staples in your head, and I said, well, nobody ever told me that. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I got out of the chair. I got up and left.
Wow.
They kept calling me at home, at work, and everything else, and then probably 3 months later, I wound up going back, and I had it done.
Yeah. And that's what happens. That's what happens when we're desperate. And I feel so fortunate that I had the wherewithal to get away, and I did step back and I took a really close look, and this doesn't make sense. And it doesn't mean that you are, you have less wherewithal in life than I do. For whatever reason, you just saw it differently than I did, and just like so many other patients out there who are now fucked because of what happened to them.
You know what it is. You didn't want to stop getting girls,
That's exactly what it is.
You want to stop going out. You just didn't want to get old, or
listen. I know, man.
Want to stay in the game.
I know. That's exactly what it is. It's about staying in the game. It's about feeling like you are still in the game. You're still worthy of screwing hot chicks, and that's a sickness that we all have, and especially when you're younger, it's a fucking sickness, and I still have it, man. I'm almost.
You know what? When they first like after when they did the second one, they kind of tightened it. It kind of looked fine. It cut the bald spot out, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, if I've gone to a few doctors in the past few years, on your list and everything, and they kind of had to look a few times to see that I actually had it done. But I can tell I had it done.
Right. I took a look. I took a look at your images, and I have to tell you, I was surprised that you didn't look a lot worse, because it wasn't that bad.
No, I see the pictures, and knock on wood, I see some of the pictures of the guys that had like a Mercedes, the Benz style, cut out of their head.
Yeah.
And those are.
And what about the brandy flat? What about the brandy lifts? And the seriously, where they completely section off your scalp and basically remove it from your skull. and then resuture. I mean, completely changes the integrity of people's scalps. I've seen some guys who were some of the work was just absolutely fucking horrendous. And when I read some of the stuff that these young guys are saying about the industry and about, strip, I think about when I got into the industry and, when I exposed what the industry was really all about. And before the bald truth, and it's not to pat myself on the back, but it's just unfortunate this information wasn't out there. This is the type of
internet. There was no
scalp reductions.
I got my information from Muscle and Fitness magazine.
That's right.
That was it.
Fucking Joe Weider, let him rest in peace.
Yes. Yeah, in Bosley.
Yeah, I mean, but think about it. It was like before we got this information out there about flaps, about scalp lifts, and about scalp reductions, that was the fucking standard of care. And we were able to get out to the public in a big way that unless you just have follicular unit transplantation with the use of binocular stereo microscopes, you are going about it the wrong way. That fucking changed everything. It fucking changed everything. And now when I read some of the stuff that the young guys are saying about FUT, they have no idea what it was like before. They have no idea. To have one linear scar in the back of your head.
Fucking meat room.
Yeah, to have one linear scar in the back of your head and to have robust grafts and have the ability to have hair in the front of your head that looks really good, that wasn't in existence before. A handful of doctors did that. Now that is the standard, and that standard is evolving.
The kids out there, you have Propecia to start. At least try it and forget. I would just try it before I start rubbing all that strange shit on my head. I just would not do it. You don't know where it's coming from.
No.
You don't know what it's going to do. I mean, you could wind up, with 3 nuts or something.
I can tell you, most likely they're going to wind up with a lot less hair in the long run anyway. That's just the way that it is. I have been around. RU 588-441 has been around forever. There are guys who have been, trying to get their hands on it for a long time. We just don't know about, how effective the gray market stuff is. In some cases, it's very effective. In some cases, it's not that effective. Most people lose the.
Could be made in somebody's friggin' cellar.
Yeah, and most people lose the momentum anyway. So you never see any long-term results with any of this stuff. It is the way that it is. But listen, dude, we're going to take another phone call. Okay. I always appreciate the call. Good luck. And you know what? Don't get. I'm not saying this guy Nigam isn't onto something. I would just say that.
I'm just saying maybe get him on. I mean, and drill him a little bit. Just people. I mean, your listeners and your readers aren't that dumb. I mean, they can if the guys are
You'd be surprised.
Legit, they'll smell it.
You'd be surprised at how dumb people are, man. And I'm not just. It's not just my listeners and my. It's just people. They want to believe what they want to believe. There's already one guy that I know that is a big fan of the show that has apparently made an appointment to see Dr. Nigam. And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, you've been around the block. You know what's going on in this industry, and you're still willing to be a guinea pig. And he says he has nothing to lose. And I'm thinking to myself, it never ends. The desperateness, the disparity never ends. And it's unfortunate. But listen, dude, I'm going to take another phone call. Okay. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Happy birthday, Joe. And I want to say hello to everybody online, Joe, Johnny, Ratty, Tracy, Arista, and everybody else. And thanks for taking my call.
All right, man. Always a pleasure.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, take care. 888-659-3727. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer, it's TJ. How are you doing?
Holy shit. TJ, how are you, man?
Man, I'm great. How are you? I turned on the show here from work, actually, and I was like, I got to call you. It's been a long, long time. I just turned it on a few minutes ago.
I'm so glad. Our internet, we're having a lot of problems. I moved to a new place, and the internet here is just really crapping out. So I'm sorry if you can't hear me well or if the feed is freezing, but we'll do our best.
No, absolutely, man. It's great talking to you. I haven't caught up with you for quite some time. Been thinking about the show a lot, and one of these days I may need a crash course in what the hell's going on lately, because when I used to be able to listen to the show every week, I felt very thoroughly caught up. Nowadays, I feel like I've lost a lot of knowledge and haven't kept up with whatever the hell's going on.
Well, where the fuck have you been? What have you been doing with yourself?
Not much, man. Just same old, doing the work thing, just trying to have a good time on the side, just living life. That's it.
So you just decided.
I had something.
And you just decided, and I think it's great because Joe from Staten Island, I'm going to pot him up in a second, he's pissed off at you because you don't hang out anymore. And I'm like, maybe he decided to have a life. Maybe he doesn't have to. Now that he got his hair back for the most part, he doesn't have to listen to the Bald Show every week.
Well, I really wish it's tough, and I understand why you moved to Tuesdays, which I think is awesome, but it's definitely a little more challenging to catch a show on a Tuesday. I just happen to be at work alone now, so it's like, okay, I can turn this thing on. But usually there's people around, and we have an open environment. It's just hard to get into the show on Tuesday nights. So
I understand
that's one of the reasons I haven't showed up. But it's not because I've got a life that precludes me from being able to catch a show. I love the show, man. I think you guys are awesome.
Well, I appreciate that, and while we do miss you, I would prefer you not to be around because I was hoping that you got a life. So, I mean, anything? What's happening on the lady market? Anything new for you? Anything good?
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude! Do you have? I mean, I know I talk about this with you all the time. You know how hard it is to be a short man. You want to hear my latest adventures?
Yes, I do.
I would love to just share this with you. I'll keep it very brief.
No,
You've heard of matchmaking agencies, right?
Yes.
I decided, I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe that's an untapped resource. Let me check these places out. Because online dating doesn't work. I am so shy, and my height just tears into my confidence level.
Of course.
I thought that I can't, it's very difficult for me to do the bar scene or anything like that. So I thought, let me try matchmaking agencies. So I looked into two, and these places, to join their network, the two that I checked out, they are $5,000 or more. I mean, one of them, they had prices up to $13,000 to get involved in their network.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, it's very personal matchmaking. Anyway, they both rejected me.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
And what was the reason? They said because of your height?
It was, yeah. They, they've got whatever it is. This is, we're in Southern California. This is L.A. and I guess they have an image to maintain a reputation.
Oh, I am fucking appalled. I am that sickens me. So they said, so how did they approach it when they rejected you? What did they tell you?
So one of them was through email. I contacted her through email, and I just said, look, here's my situation, and I gave her a brief synopsis of me, some of the challenges I've come up to date, why online dating, in my opinion, hasn't worked, and said, look, so I'm considering matchmaking agencies. This may be an untapped resource. What do you think? Or do you think you can help me out, or that kind of a thing? She said, look. She was polite. She said, I've got to turn you down. She said, in my experience doing this for whatever number of years, this person happened to also be an author of a book. She said, look, height is, I've learned that it's extremely critical. She says, I cannot get even a small percentage of the women in my network to consider meeting a guy who's 5'7". Dude, I would do anything to be 5'7". I'm 5'1", so she says, I have to politely decline your membership.
That is appalling. I think about, my brother, let him rest in peace. He was 5'7", and he may have even been shorter. He told me he was 5'7", and he would walk into a room, and I've said this before, like he owned the fucking joint. For whatever reason, I got the height in the family, and everyone would say that. It used to make me feel bad when people would meet us that I was the tall one. It wasn't my fault, but I don't know why it made me feel bad, but, it is what it is. But he never, ever had a problem meeting a woman. In the end, women really dug this guy. And I think it was really based on his personality. And for whatever reason, maybe it was just his stature, the way that he held himself. He always kind of looked like a taller person, but he wasn't. He was considered short. So for me to hear that women are just, not even interested in a guy who's 5'7", it's appalling to me.
It's definitely tough. It is really, really tough. In my earlier years of life, I never thought heightism would be such a prominent form of discrimination against men in dating, but it is, and I don't say that in a complaining manner. I mean, so be it. I'll just deal with what I have.
Well, what about?
However, I think I'm a bachelor here for life.
Well, no, dude. What about? And I spoke to you about this 4 years ago. There's got to be like short dating sites, and as fucked up as that sounds, that you have to be categorized and that you have to be limited to that. I mean, isn't that a possibility?
It is. It may very well be. I know they exist, and I even know I know the sites. I just haven't hit them.
Well, what about going down to the Dominican Republic and getting a hooker for a couple of months? I mean, what the fuck? It's not we only live once, dude. You might as well enjoy your life.
I'm totally with you, man. I totally agree. Being a bachelor, it gets, it's cool, it's got its upsides, but man, it gets tough sometimes. And that's why I, hold out once in a while for maybe finding someone. But at the same time, every man's got needs. Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely,
sometimes a trip
man.
to the Dominican Republic might be the right way to go.
Listen, as long as it's legal, I'm all for it. And there's there's other places that are legal as well. But I'm telling you, man. I mean, you are you have a great job. You're a professional.
I appreciate it.
I mean, there are women out there who will overlook that. Believe it or not, listen. American women, that's tough. I will tell you that's going to be a tough call. But I mean, It's very possible for you to hook up with like an Asian broad or someone who just, and this again, I know it sucks that you have to be relegated to this in your mind, but you can still have a happy life with a banging woman, a smoking hot broad, who is going to appreciate you for who you are and for the life that you can give them. And what's wrong with that?
No, dude, I think it's totally awesome. Another thing too is I don't feel short. I know I am. I know I have a short stature, but it's like I don't feel short. So, all these things. The thing that I hear the most often is be confident, be confident. Man, in my mind, I'm as confident as it gets. I have no more room to grow there. I mean, I feel great, but
be confident. It's very important, obviously, but believe me, I understand. I mean, if you have that type of height deficit, it is difficult for someone not to notice that. So confidence was only going to take you so far. Except if you have that confidence, that's going to make it that much easier for the women who will overlook the height. And I'm telling you, I hate to say it, it's going to probably end up being a foreign chick because they just seem to be a lot more tolerant and more open to like looking at the person for who they are. I tell you, if common law leads me, I say it all the time. I'm on a plane to Russia, or wherever, and I'm just going the mail order bride route because I don't want to deal with these crazy bitches on Match.com or on Elance or whatever Elance on eHarmony or wherever And I have to say I don't have that height issue, and I'm fortunate in many ways, and but I don't want to deal with these crazy women.
No, no kidding. It is tough, and especially, especially in the Los Angeles, Southern California area. I think it's even tougher because, I at the risk of sounding, prejudice or stereotypical or whatever the word is, there is an image here that I think a lot of women attempt to maintain, and
it's ridiculous. There's got to be some women out there that want a short, guy who's packing.
Yeah. I wish I could take that tissue and redistribute it toward my height.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Spencer. Hey, another random question, if I might. I see Joe Rogan, and I know we've talked about him before on your show. I see him on TV quite a bit. He hosts, pay-per-view fights and other kinds of things, and he has shaved his head, as you may very well know. And sometimes as I'm watching him, I'll see him turn around, and I don't quite see a scar there. Now, I don't know if I'm just missing it, or if he's magically figured out a way to cover it up, or maybe just some makeup. I was just curious if you happen to know.
I'm assuming that it's makeup since he's on television. If you see his Facebook page or what he tweeted like last year when he decided to shave his head, I mean. He talks about it too. There's definitely a scar back there. So, I mean, it's possible that he had something done. I'm not sure. At one point, we did have a correspondence through MySpace a while ago, and he was asking about ways to, correct his scar, and he made that public he felt that was hair transplantation was the biggest mistake he made because of the scar.
Yeah.
And I think it was a big mistake, too, because he's like a really cool-looking dude. Like, he's got a really well-structured face with the right eyebrows. He could have shaved right away and still stayed in his career and probably been extremely successful. So, but I also understand the pressure that he probably felt to continue to maintain the look that he had when he started his career. So I don't know. Maybe he had some sort of tattooing. Maybe it's just makeup, or maybe he had FUE into the strip.
Into the scar.
We are not in contact in any way. I think the last time I contacted him, he didn't get back to me. So I'm not going to badger the guy.
No. He's a cool guy. I've seen him do stand-up a couple times. He's actually pretty cool, and I talked to him briefly after his stand-up show. He's a really, really cool guy. Obviously, I didn't talk to him about that, but
you should have. You should have said, "What the fuck is wrong with your head?" That would have been terrible.
I could have, man. I would turn around and take a peek at the back of his head. But I watch those UFC fights all the time, and he very clearly shaved his head, and I'm always studying his skull. It's like, turn around, let me see. And when he does, for those brief moments, I just don't see anything there, and I don't know if I'm missing it or if he's.
Yeah, I think he's a badass guy. I think that he is. His career is inspirational, and I'm sure that if we had a chance to actually hang in person, he would be more than willing to kind of give us the skinny on exactly what happened. And I'd love to have him on the show sometime. I did ask him years ago, and he said that he really didn't want to be involved in it, and I could see that. Well, why would you want to have the focus on your fucking hair transplant? Now, he came out years later, but I get that, man. He's got a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, Spencer, I gotta apologize. I don't know if it's my phone or
no, it's the internet, dude. I'm so sorry. I've been having trouble for 6 weeks since we got into this place, and Time Warner's really fucking me here. I'm going to actually have to tweet about this because they cannot fix the problem. They say it is a node that is affecting about 4,000 households. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, then fix it, motherfuckers. What's going on?
Yeah, no kidding. I don't want to sound rude like I'm missing what you're saying, but...
yeah, go ahead. Do your thing. Hey, TJ, thank you so much for calling. It's great to hear from you. It really was.
Hey, and it's great to talk to you, too. Say hi to the guys, and I hope to catch up again soon.
I will. Please stay in touch, all right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Spencer. Great talking to you, man.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Fucking TJ, man. We missed him. I'm going to try to take one more call, and then I'll go back to Joe if I can't take the call, and let's see who this is.
And Chard.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spence.
Oh, my God. George, another flash from the past, man.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that when I heard TJ. I'm sorry, I'm in a pet store.
And I meant
walking out.
I meant blast from the past. I'm sorry about my internet connection. We're having a lot of problems with the phone line.
Yeah,
so
it really sucks tonight, man. But I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that. Who was that dude that was on before TJ?
Boston Bob.
That guy is a fucking riot. He is so funny.
He's great.
I mean, the guy I just love cool blue collar guys like that who just call it like it is. And I loved how he talked about these young guys, like these fucking young guys rubbing all this shit on their heads, And I mean, I almost wrecked the car. I started laughing so hard. It was so funny.
We know how it is. We understand what it's like. We're part of the old crew. And I feel bad for these young guys because, in my view, they're really taking the wrong route. But listen, it's their choice, man. It's their fucking choice.
That's it. I had to like cut it off. I was in a Pet Supplies Plus store buying some cat food, and I was talking to this girl at the cashier chick that I'm always flirting with, this hot young blonde in her early 20s. I'm always carrying on shit with her, and I had to cut it off, man, because I finally came up to bat here, but. I'm kind of like TJ, man. I'm like trying to get my shit together, and this life's been kicking my ass per usual, and I just haven't been able to tune into the program for a while. And I'm like, I had a lot of meetings. And, first I had that cat of mine I was nursing for months, and he died a few weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Well, it was lymphoma, and I nursed him for 3 months and just watched him waste away. And the vet said he was not in pain, so I wouldn't pull the plug on him. And and the vet said he would get weak, and then I would just be able to give him some tranquilizers and let him drift off to sleep, and I could get my aunt or someone to take him into the, to have him put down so I wouldn't have to deal with it. And it never goes down the way the vet says. When he's eating one morning, finally real weak, he's eating, and I go back 2 hours later, find him in a coma. I had to sit there and watch him die.
Oh, man.
And it just really fucking freaked me out. I mean, I've had pets all my life, but I've never actually watched one die in front of me, and it just was just awful. It was really awful.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm a big animal lover, as you know. So.
Yeah, I like animals more than people. So
That's so do I, man.
So man, my animals, my cats have always been there for me while people fucked me over and shit on me. And so between that and this fight with the government, and all this other shit, I've just been preoccupied, and I never realized how much I miss your program until I'm not around for a while, and I come back and I feel like I've when I was get on the phone and start listening to you guys, I feel like I've just been missing part of my family or something. It's really weird. It's strange.
Well, I appreciate that, and we missed you too. Everyone's asking about you, and they're concerned about how you're doing. I'm like, listen, let's just leave the guy alone. Maybe he's moving on with his life a little bit.
Well, I'm trying to, and I was just on the phone with one of my business associates up in Michigan, and I'm trying to get, refocused on my marketing stuff, and I just got a lot of shit I got to get after, and I'm just tired of focusing on shit I can't do anything about, which is this fucking hair stuff. I can't do anything about it right now. I'm just maintaining, I'm slowly losing ground with finasteride, but that's all I'm doing, and that's all I'm going to do until you guys come up with some kind of breakthrough. So I'm just trying to focus on shit that I do have some control over, and, like moving on with life and business and getting back in shape and various and sundry things. And, like you, I was just listening to what you said to TJ, and I'm right there with you, man. I mean, I'm just going to focus on my business and on my health and on making money and taking care of my family and, a couple of cats I got left. And then if I get the money, if I decide to one day, if I get desperate enough, I can just go do the international flesh marketplace thing, like you said, like if common law leads.
Are you kidding me?
Plane to Russia.
What the fuck is the difference? It's all the same.
I'll be sitting on the fucking plane seat next to you on the way to Russia. We'll go we'll go Odessa and Ukraine.
Let me tell you,
and
it's all the same, dude. The women who are listening to this show are like, this guy is sick. What is he thinking? What is he talking about? Listen, I have been with some of, beautiful women, great women, strong women, intelligent women. I have to tell you that in the end, it's all the same shit. I was lucky enough to find a incredibly wonderful woman who I do not believe I will ever be able to match if something, God forbid, happens to her or if we break up. So to me, it's just like, you know what? I've been there, done that. I've had the best. Now I don't want to deal with the bullshit. I don't want to deal with somebody else's kids. I don't want to deal with, all this stuff. I'll just, find some, 22, 23-year-old broad, enjoy a few years with her, and then move on to the next one. What is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. I feel exactly the same way. And when, I've had people tell me, when they say, well, why don't you find somebody to settle down? I was like, well, all the women my age, I'm not attracted to them physically. Sorry, I'm just not. B, when you're my age and people still think in your late 20s and early 30s, and I just turned 51 last month.
Oh, Mazel tov,
I'm not interested in dating broads at my age that look like they've been to hell and back with Audie Murphy. I don't want to. A, I'm not attracted to them, and B, I don't want to deal with their fucking kids and all their baggage and bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to deal with it.
Well, I am more. I've been attracted to, for sure. I think women my age could be extremely attractive. Definitely.
Oh, some can.
Definitely screwable. There's some really hot women my age. I don't want to sound like I'm an ageist. I just don't want to deal with the fucking baggage most of all.
Yep.
There's
a lot of it.
That's really what it is. Somebody my age, we've been through life, and most people my age have kids. They could be grown kids. They could have several ex-husbands. They could have all kinds of fucking debt and all kinds of shit that I don't want to deal with. Plus all the other problems and health issues and all the shit that people have to deal with. I found somebody that I love very much, and we have a great relationship, and we've had a great life together. But if, sometimes things come to an end, whether it's through a breakup or whether it's through an illness, God forbid, or whatever it is. If, God forbid, something like that does happen, I know what I'm going to do. It's not going to be Match.com, and it's certainly not going to be, eHarmony. Maybe I'll end up going to the local bar and, banging around a little bit, but that's just for fun. But there's no way I'm going to get involved with anybody who has had this prior life with probably connected to a lot of problems. Maybe that's a flaw in me. I don't know, but I don't want to deal with it.
Well, it's probably a flaw in both of us. I'm sorry, it's just the way I feel about it. I don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to deal with it. And the older guys I've seen who've gone and done these things, like this professor friend of mine, I just don't believe that. I believe all these dating sites like eHarmony and Match.com. I think most of them are bullshit for the most part. People paint a big fucking picture of themselves. It's not true. It's not real. they put together some facade, to market themselves online.
It's a fucking online. It's a fucking online resume. That's all that it is.
Exactly.
So it's all bullshit. The angles are, the pictures are like black and white pictures, and crazy angles. Who the fuck knows what you're going to end up with? And this is the thing. This is what's crazy. It's like the women, they can go on these dating sites and they can date. They can go on 5 dates a week, 6 dates a week. They don't have to pay for shit. They don't have to worry about it. All they have to do is show up, and everything's taken care of, and they can pick and choose. They're getting if they're attractive, they're being contacted by hundreds of guys. Even if you're the most attractive guy in the world, you still don't have those many choices. So who knows? You go out with one of these girls from Match.com, you don't know if they have 5 guys in the wings that they're screwing.
Hey, I'm actually like this Doc Love guy I told you about that I bought his book years ago, who's a really fucking cool guy, and he's got this thing called The System where he figured the whole thing out, and the whole thing is completely true. I mean, it was a work of genius. He has a radio program weekly and all that. So this guy, he said there's actually women that are professional daters that go on that sign up for all these fucking things just so they can have a different guy take them out and spend money on them every week, and they basically eat fancy dinners on all the guys. They fuck the ones they're attracted to, and the other ones they just eat. They eat off all of them. They use all of them to take them out and show them a good time, to take them to fancy places and fancy restaurants and all that. And they fuck the ones they're attracted to, but they're just constantly going through new guys just to be entertained.
Dude, are you kidding me? What about, I think a more legitimate type of site are these like sugar daddy sites, because at least you know what you're getting into.
Exactly. Have you seen the commercial, the latest one for Anastasia.com with the hot blonde chick and the guys?
No.
Say, oh, you got to see, man, you got to get Common Law to point you at this commercial because you'll get a big laugh at it. There's some gorgeous blonde chick, and she's, looks like a princess, and she's in this beautiful apartment, and this guy's saying, oh, I've never felt closer to anyone, even though she's 5,000 miles away. And she's lying there on her side, about to go to sleep, looking in the camera and blowing kisses at him and all this shit. And I'm going, yeah, boy.
Let me tell you something, man. These sugardaddy.com or whatever it is, those type of sites, at least okay, we're signing up. I'm signing up to pay your rent, and I have the opportunity to have sex with you 3 times a week and take you out to dinner. And the rent is only $1,500. And dinner's going to cost me another $500. So for $2,000 a month, I can basically, or whoever signs up for this, can basically have a girl 20 years his junior without any fucking strings attached.
Exactly.
That's cheap.
I mean,
that is a deal.
Spence, this guy that was my business partner many years ago, he was an architect and engineer, brilliant old man that worked on Epcot Center with Disney World, knew Frank Lloyd Wright. He designed over 100 churches around the world, all kind of projects around Mobile, around this area. And he was just a really well-known guy. But because he worked on huge buildings and stuff like that, he worked around guys, that were wealthy, that had, that financed huge construction projects and stuff. So he met, and he was always looking for people to fund some of these things he was trying to do. He came up with that Holy Land theme park thing they built in Orlando decades before it was actually built, and tried for decades to get it financed and kept getting screwed and never couldn't get it off the ground. I was trying to help him with that, and we ended up, he could never get the financing. So he told me that he met a billionaire one time, some young billionaire who had been married like 4 or 5 fucking times and had all these greedy bitches that had taken him to the cleaners. And he said, this billionaire told him, he said, I would have been better off if I had just gone to Vegas and just bought high-class whores. He says, I would have come out better off. I would have gotten more sex and spent less money with $1,000 a night Vegas whores than all these women I married that took me to the cleaners over and over. And this guy was a billionaire.
Well, look, I think there's, I don't want the women out there to think that, this sounds misogynistic, but the truth, this is the truth. The truth is this. You find very few great people in this world. And if you're lucky enough to find a great person to be your partner, then you are so fucking fortunate. I would say that
you hit the jackpot. You hit the lottery on that one.
Well, I will tell you that, I know in my life, everyone thinks that they know that they're a woman. I know that in my life that, no matter what the situation is, I got involved with a very trustworthy, loyal, just a good person. And believe me, I tested her over the years. You know, I'm not the easiest guy in the world. So I feel so fortunate that I'm involved with the person I'm involved with. And I see guys who are just involved in long-term relationships or married. You know, I've been with somebody for 14 years now. And all they talk about is screwing other women. They talk about this, that. And I think to myself, Jesus, you know, how, you know, to be in a position where I actually admire the other person, that is very rare. Nobody that I know, I mean, two of my best friends are in good relationships for sure, but nobody I know feels this way. And to me, it would be very difficult. And I've been, again, this is not to toot my own horn, I've been with, you know, a lot of women. I met this person when I was already 34 years old. So I had a little bit of a track record with women. And as great as they were, as hot as they were, as great the sex is, you know, as the sex was, whatever it was, there was always a major issue,
a major problem someplace.
Their family, you know, their you know, what they want for their future. Something happened in their past. You know, always something that really fucked the situation up and made life so much more difficult than it needed to be.
Yep.
You know, so to me, you're going to get that with any woman you're with. You might as well just, you know, and it's possible that especially if you get married, that you can end up losing half of what your net worth. And, you know, if get to a certain age and you're not tied down to somebody, I think there's a lot better ways than to go on one of these dating sites and to meet somebody and then potentially, you know, cause damage to your life. And that's just my opinion.
It's funny when you started trying to describe common law. You said, you know, you said trustworthy, and what was the second term you used?
Loyal.
It's funny because it's almost like you were you ever in the Boy Scouts, Spencer?
I was actually a Cub Scout for about 2 weeks.
Oh, you're in the Cub Scouts. Okay, I was in the Boy Scouts, and you know, and I lasted a year and a half or so because I was in a bunch of little mean fuckers who like just got me in just to torture me so they could beat me up and stuff.
Nice.
And but you know, the Boy Scout motto as a scout is trustworthy, loyal, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Right.
I remember that from like 40 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
And when you started that, I thought, fuck, he's going to launch into she's the Boy Scout motto.
That's right. Be prepared, right?
Yeah, that's the motto. Be prepared. But the other one, I
Yeah.
can't, you know, the other one was part of the. You know, I can't remember what the hell it was. Part of the motto. I just remember from repeating it a million times.
But you know how many people I know who are just like, I mean, they're divorced or they have kids from a first marriage and their lives are so fucking complicated. And if you meet somebody my age, and again, there are plenty of hot women who are my age, very sexy, good-looking women. It's not, to me, it's not about attraction. I do believe, especially the way women take care of themselves today, that you can be way into your 50s and still be very doable. I do believe that. I know that you're not in that mindset, but you know,
There's only a couple of women I know of that, you know, Jacqueline Smith, when she got in her early 50s, I would have done her.
Right.
Raquel Welch, when she got in her early 50s, she was still doable.
Dude, I would do Raquel Welch now. She's like 80. I'm not joking.
Jacqueline Smith was in her early 50s and looked like she was fucking 28
look,
years old.
Look at what do you think about, what about Diane Lane?
Gorgeous.
Diane Lane. She's our age.
Diane Lane, when she was a little teeny bop, I remember when she first started making movies, she was really hot, and then, you know, by the time she hit the perfect storm phase, she was already, you know, getting the baggy eyes and starting to look a little puffy.
But I still think that's okay. See, to me, that's like, okay, I can kind of relate to that because we're from the same. I mean, we're the exact same age, me and her. So to me, it's like, all right, I got baggy eyes. I'm getting, you know, things are happening to me, so I could certainly relate to that. It's just, to me, honestly, it's the life, it's the experience, it's what is left behind in their lives and who they're connected with. Are they connected to two men from different children, you know, from different families? Are they connected to one person that they have like a really, you know, bad time in their life, and then I have to deal with that baggage? I don't think that's selfish. I think that if you make it to this stage in life and you're single again and you don't have children, you should have the freedom that you earned. You know,
absolutely. And go read Doc Love's book, because he says exactly what you just said. He said, you got to, you know, when you get looking and get involved with one of these people that have been, you know, that at our age been married and divorced 2 or 3 times, and, you know, he mentioned all the things that you mentioned as that you have to be worried about. You know, it's the debt issues and the this issues and that issues and all that. That's all one thing. But when you start dealing with people who have been emotionally damaged by their previous relationships, boyfriends and husbands, and they've been through so many of them by then, he said, you end up trying to fight fucking ghosts who are not even there, and there's no way you're going to win that.
And I just want to get laid. I don't want to deal with all that shit.
Exactly. You don't want to deal with all that bullshit, and who can blame you? And I feel the same way, which is why, I find myself, the problem is I find myself physically attracted to the hot young girls, but most of them are so stupid and ignorant and just ditzy that once you get past the sex part, that's the problem I've had. After you get laid with them, you don't have anything to talk about.
Well, I'm gonna have to sign off, but that's what hookers are for, George. That's all I'm going to say on that. But listen, dude, I'm so glad that you called in. It's so great to talk to you. We missed you here.
Me too, and I'm looking forward to get caught back up. I'm excited about finding out about this thing you were mentioning, this new device, because maybe it's going to be the thing I'll end up, doing at some point. But I understand is it a device or procedure that you talked about?
Well, it's both. It's a device and a procedure. It's actually a visibly scarless hair transplant, and it's kind of endoscopic in a sense. The patent is out online now, so I can talk about it to some degree. But it is, and I've been doing this for a long time, George. You know that I don't fall prey to the bullshit, and I will tell you that I know
you don't.
I really
was really excited about what you said.
I really believe that this is something that could be really change this industry and help a lot of people. Let's just hope that what I was presented with is completely accurate, because if it is, then I really think that this is the next step in the evolution of surgical hair restoration.
Okay, now we've got half the equation. Until they figure out a way to revive and to reactivate the dormant follicles that have been there, that have gone dormant, until they find a way to do that, you can just grow back the shit that you lost to begin with. Until they find a way to do that, now that they've got a scarless way to do a surgical implant, the other half of the equation is, we need these fucking guys to figure out, like I talked to one of your doctors about one time, if we need them to crack these teratoma tumors that have like teeth, hair, and eyeballs growing in them. If a fucking tumor can grow pieces of hair, if they can do that, why can't these doctors figure out why the tumor can generate hair out of these stem cells or whatever the hell they are, and then find a way to grow a limitless amount of donor hair now that we have a scarless way to implant it?
Well, I think that that's definitely food for thought, and that's
or what?
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm sure there are a couple of guys out there working on that. And you said you spoke to a couple of our guys as well. I'm sure that's something that's kind of been broached before, or at least people are thinking about. So listen, we'll see. All I can say is, and when I say scarless, I want you to understand that there's no visible scars on the outside of the scalp with this procedure. There will be one small scar that will probably be placed somewhere very discreetly, but that is it. And from what I have seen, it's very exciting. Now, I said this before, I have been gotten some calls from doctors, and they're just like, well, what are you talking about? What's going on here? There's a little bit of a question mark, like why I'd be talking about something like this. But I'm not here to hold back the evolution of this field. I'm here to get the truth out to my listeners and to my viewers and to my readers. And I believe that this is something that is extremely positive. The naysayers are out there. The guys who are on the message forums, it's hard for them to believe. Fuck it. What am I going to say? This is what I saw with my own eyes. If it doesn't come to fruition, then it doesn't come to fruition. But I do believe that if Dr. Wesley is doing what he claims to do, and if everything works out the way that I saw it on video, then this is going to be a great thing. George, I want to thank you again. It's so great to hear you. I'm going to let you go, and I want to say goodnight to Joe from Staten Island, all right?
Well, tell Joe I said goodnight. Did I hear it's Joe's birthday?
Yeah, let me see if I can pot Joe up too. Hold on. Joe, you there?
Of course I am, Spencer. I've been here for 14 years, haven't I?
You have been, man. So why don't you guys say hi, and then I'm going to have to, it's 20 minutes after the hour.
I was worried about you. I asked about you online, right,
tough,
Spencer?
man. Is this your birthday, Joe?
It was last week. I'm an old man of 55, and I'm still a sufferer.
Well, I turned 51 last month, but God bless you and happy birthday belatedly. And it's good to hear your voice. I hope Johnny's doing okay. Spencer, tell Con-in-Law I said mazel tov, and you guys take care. Spencer, did you move to a new home, sir?
Yes, I did.
And so you're down inside a canyon now, and your internet sucks.
I was in a canyon before, but for some reason this area is having some problems with the main node. So once there's some congestion, I'm having, which is really the time I do the show, 5, 6 o'clock at night. It's most congested. I'm having problems. They claim it's going to be fixed soon. I hope that it is.
Well, good luck on that, and it's good to hear your voice. Joe, good to hear your voice. Thanks, Spencer, for...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe. What'd you say?
Go ahead, George. I'm sorry. You're talking. I'm so welcome back. Hope you call more often. And I want to say I'm glad TJ called in. I was worried about him. I thought maybe he did something terrible to himself.
Oh,
Is Marcus still around, man?
Marcus calls once in a while.
Okay, well, hopefully I'll catch Mr. Cool Guy. Well, look, tell everybody I said hello. It's good to hear you guys, and come on down and enjoy the Gulf Coast. No oil, no tar balls rolling up on the beach after the oil spill now. So come on down and enjoy it. I know you do, Spencer, but Joe, come on down to the Gulf Coast, man, and go hit the beach and forget about all the bullshit for a while.
All right, George, listen,
Yeah,
man.
I wish I could leave my bed, George. That was enough of an effort for me.
All right, George, listen, you sound good. Good talking to you, and, don't be a stranger, all right?
I won't. Thanks a lot, Spence.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just...
Oh, man, I hung up on both of them. Joe, I know you wanted to say something. Call back. I'll give you 3 minutes to call back. Sorry about that, man. Let me give out the websites before Joe calls back. The website's thebaldtruth.com, of course, for archives of this broadcast. We will be doing a UK broadcast on Sunday, so you can check us out on the UK show at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time, and, of course, 8 p.m. GMT time. You can check out our message forum at baldtruthtalk.com. I want to thank everyone for making baldtruthtalk.com the number one most trafficked hair loss message forum in the world. A lot of great information out there. Just, always read everything with a little bit of a jaundiced eye. You never know who's writing what, but the truth is there's a lot of people helping each other. It's a great place to share your stories and your struggles and to learn from each other. That's baldtruthtalk.com. Let me take Joe real quick. Joe, I'm sorry about that. Is that you? Hi, who's this? Can you hear me? All right. Hey, who's this?
Yeah, it's me, Spencer.
Sorry about that, Joe.
I feel bad for TJ, man. I mean, the guy has some more hair now, but he's still, vertically challenged, and he seems pretty upset by the whole thing.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, he seems pretty together. He seems pretty like, okay, this sucks, but he never sounds depressed, TJ. The guy talks about his challenge. He's 5'1", which, for a guy is extremely challenging, especially when you're being fucking rejected from dating sites. That's unbelievable to me. And the fact that this person in this dating site, this matchmaking company, said that she has trouble matching people with guys who are 5'7", it astounds me. I don't fucking understand women. It drives me fucking nuts. I am so fortunate that, and so are you, Joe, that we don't have that issue. So it's hard for me to fully comprehend. However, like I said, my brother, let him rest in peace, was not a tall man, and he didn't seem to have much problems. But who knows? Maybe there were problems that I wasn't aware of, that he just didn't voice and that he didn't show. But people are just so fucked up, man. People are just so fucked up.
TJ was doubly cursed with it being a hair loss sufferer and being vertically challenged. That's pretty sad. And I'm not trying to, mock the guy. I'm serious. It's pretty sad. And a lot of people like that were sufferers and vertically challenged.
I'm telling you, TJ, forget about this. Sometimes in life we have to kind of find our own way, and we have to figure, if we don't fit in a certain, a certain societal image or whatever, we have to kind of make our own way. Like, I base like my career. I barely, I dropped out of college. I was a terrible student. I had to kind of figure out a way to make my way in this world using my fucking wit, and my balls, I guess. And I lived by my wits, and I figured out a way an unorthodox way to make it in this world. And I think the same goes with any aspect of your life, and that includes going out and finding a woman if you don't fit into a specific niche. Or if you think you don't fit into any niche, you have to make your niche. And I'm a firm believer in that. You can make your own destiny, and you work with the cards that you're dealt. So TJ, I want to I want you to call me one day and say, you know what, Spence, I listened and I moved forward, and now I'm just, having a great life. You too, Joe, but you won't listen to me.
Well, Spence, I want to thank everyone for their birthday wishes, and I won't mention what day your birthday is on the air, but I'll be contacting you, very shortly to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you, man. I'm getting old, dude.
I won't say the date on the air, but I never forget.
I know that. I want to wish you a happy belated birthday. I want to wish everybody out there, a lot of strength and good luck. And know that you are not alone, guys. You really aren't. This is a safe place, and there are millions of us out there who are struggling with the same issues that you think you're struggling alone with. So, Joe, listen, man, thanks for the call. Guys.
That's what I say. God bless you, man, and you are a really great human being. That's all I want to say, man. You're just my best friend, and I love you, man. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, I do my best, and, I wish you the best of luck, Joe. I mean, with everything, and we love you too, and, don't make me cry, dude. Don't make me cry. I got to go.
I just say one thing quick. I want to thank your producer, Suncast, for his birthday gift.
What did he give you?
He kicked me out of the chat room.
Motherfucker.
No, but he brought me right back.
All right.
I think he was playing a joke on me or something like that.
All right.
He's a good kid.
All right, dude.
Just kidding.
Thanks
Good
a
night,
lot.
Spencer.
Take care. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, guys, listen, until next week, I gave out the websites. Until next week, be strong. God bless. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.